Okay. Public input. We had one request for public input from Dr. Grant Hewison of the local alcohol policy, which was declined under Standing Order 77.2. You cannot speak to more than one meeting, and he spoke to regulatory and safety in July. Thank goodness for that. Local input, none received. Extraordinary items, none known. And the status update on action decisions from the governing body. It's an information paper only. Everyone prepared to move that we accept that, please? Hills and Fletcher, thank you very much. In favour, please say aye. Contrary, thank you very much. Now, item 8, Auckland Future Fund. I'd like to welcome Megan Holly and Christopher Swasbrook. Oh, and we've got Bishop and a few others here. Very good indeed. Councillor Fletcher, thank you for your work. Would you like to say anything about this?
No, just what a privilege it has been to be the lead councillor with the Auckland Future Fund in this term of council, and the great confidence that I have in the chair, directors, and a particular thanks again to Megan Holly for the outstanding work. So I'm looking forward to them outlining for you the SIPO and the decisions of the board that have been taken, and I know that the chair is happy to take any questions at the end of his presentation. And I'm happy to move.
Okay, you can move that, and it'll be seconded by the Deputy Mayor. And we'll invite Mr. Swasbrook to address us.
Oh, I'll start with me.
Position there, Megan.
Oh, tēnā koutou.
Title, how did you get the Treasury Investments Relationship Manager? Gosh, I always dreamed of rising that high in the world.
She deserves every single one of them.
Tēnā koutou katoa. This item is to present the Future Fund's Statement of Investment Policy and Objectives. It sets out the framework that is required for the fund to be investing. It's been prepared by Mapua Wealth, and there's been a lot of involvement with Fontobel, the investment manager, and so the board has worked with both of those parties and some council staff as well to ensure that the policies outlined will meet the long-term targets of the fund, and as well as other deliverables and compliance. So council, legal and treasury staff have reviewed and provided input into this first draft, and we're recommending that the council support the draft as it is. The SIPO will be reviewed by the board annually, and the council will have an opportunity to provide input on that every year as well. Otherwise, I'll take the report as read, and obviously we have the chair here for any comments or questions.
One thing I would add, if I may, is some of you might be wondering why it took so long to get a SIPO done. You have to remember that SIPO is a document that you need to engage with your investment manager on, and we appointed the investment manager, so then you engage. Of course, a lot of work had been done on the SIPO, but to finalise it and to think about it with your investment manager is absolutely critical to drive the outcome, the long-term outcomes that you're looking for. So that is a reason why we're dealing with this today and not dealing with it before. It does not make sense to drag the proverbial cart before the horse. So with that, I'm open to any questions you have.
Is that all we're hearing? Or we go to questions? I've got Councillor Ferry's got a question. What to do with her $1 billion that she's just discovered?
Not yet. Maybe I should buy a lotto ticket. Kia ora. My question was around the responsible investment stuff, and in particular, I had a lot of questions through recent months around investment in companies associated with the Israeli war effort, shall we say, putting that diplomatically. So I just wondered, I guess, a little bit from you on how the responsible investment policy lines up with not investing in the creation of products of war and things like that, because I know that's already covered, but I wondered if you could explain how that applies to the Future Fund, please. Thank you.
Sure. There's basically 3 levels of exclusions, and I'll just talk you through them. There's level 1, universal exclusions, applies across all investment solutions that we may invest in. targeted exclusions, the most controversial activities and sectors, which obviously touches on what you were just talking about. And then level 3, advanced exclusions, a stricter set of exclusions, including alignment with requirements outlined by the Paris-aligned benchmark regulation and among other higher standards. We have spoken to Von Tobel specifically about the situation that you refer to, and they are aware of a number of lists and databases that track corporate involvement in activities connected to Gaza and the West Bank. They're carefully monitoring those lists and ensuring that as best we can, we don't result in investing into something that would be controversial. And priority obviously remains to manage this portfolio as responsibly as possible. So when we have direct investments, it's much easier to control that. Sometimes when you're invested in an index fund, it's you know, there are index funds with exclusions and we try to go there, but it's not always possible when you are investing in global index funds. Now, there's a reason for investing in global index. It's a lower cost investment solution and suits in some situations. But we are acutely aware of Gaza and the West Bank, and will do our darndest, if I could be so short, to ensure that we don't transgress.
Thank you, and that's reassuring. Just to, I guess, signal now that that's something that I intend to, if I'm in a position to do so, next term, once we actually start, investing directly, and indirectly, I'm keen to continue to monitor. So it would be good if that's something that was actively on the radar and reported back on. I'd really appreciate that in the future. Kia ora.
Absolutely on the radar.
Thank you.
Councillor Sayers, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here today. I probably normally wouldn't ask you this question, but because it's this part of the election cycle, there are mayoral candidates out on the campaign trail at the moment, perhaps giving some misinformation about the way that you're remunerated. Basically, they're saying quite convincingly to the public that you take 2% of the return, right? So therefore, I just want to give the opportunity. We are in a public forum here. I just want to allow you the opportunity to explain as much as you'd like to around how your firm's actually remunerated.
I'm absolutely happy to explain how we're remunerated, and it is certainly not 2%. Let's be very clear. The directors of the Auckland Future Fund are only paid the salaries that you have approved as the governing body and the related entities under the local authority. Well, I'm not privy to exactly what legislative piece, but we are paid salaries. That's clearly disclosed in our annual report. There are no 2% fees or anything like that. It is just simply, if I could be so bold, preposterous to say that, and just factually incorrect. So please, if it's on the record and I'm on TV, I welcome that, because that is incorrect.
So I take it you're withdrawing your application to join the board now. Councillor Darby.
Thank you, Christopher. Christopher, just following that discussion about the responsible investment policy, that's there, that policy's there. But I take the point about index funds. It's really hard to go, well, no, I can't take that part of your fund. I just want the other 98%. So in terms of the responsible investment policy, when you approach those and you look at the fund mix, if you're going for an investment fund in part, you'll have a scan of it and you go, now this is a bit overweight in, I don't know, X, Y, and Z. They're contributing to these munitions programs. We're out of there. We won't be going there. So is it? I guess what I'm getting to, that the world is a fast changing place, and your area is fast changing. So the responsible investment policy I'm assuming is like a foundation, it's a bottom line, but there are other eyes on things as well. I take a company like Palantir, you know, the American tech company. You can say, well, that's a tech company, we're just investing in a tech company, but they're actually a military company in many respects. So you would identify that and go, no, that doesn't stack up. What I'm getting at is I'm assuming that the responsible investment policy is the foundation, but your eyes are on the current.
You are quite right, Councillor Darby, in the responsible investment policy is a foundation, and this is why the responsible investment policy is clearly linked within the SIPO for the investment manager. One of the things that we did with Vontobel is they are much more focused on direct investment, and therefore you can meet the requirements of versus an index fund much easier. A company like Palantir, as you know, they started out working with money from the CIA and have expanded their footprint to the global defence industry, and that is a hard company to exclude because it's in the S&P 500, and if we have an index fund for a period of time, they don't actually make, as far as I'm aware, an index fund that excludes Palantir for that reason. So yes, initially, you have to grapple with all of these things. And for a period of time, as we invest, and as the investment manager migrates to a more direct situation, we weren't willing to go to a direct investment situation initially. And we're doing a hybrid situation where we'll have some index and some direct, and we'll move much more to direct, where you can have a position statement like Vontobel does on nature, a position statement on climate change, a clear exclusion list. So one of the reasons why we went for Vontobel, because it can be more tailor-made in that respect. But to your point, initially we will have some index funds. They are conscious of our exclusions and conscious of the issues that you raised. It's tough with a company like Palantir being in the S&P 500.
Yeah. Okay, I'll leave that with you. I trust it's in your very capable hands, and I'm confident you have the tune of the council on that one. Thank you. In terms of the target rate of return, the 724, and then the distribution of the 524, and then there's an assumption there of 2% inflation. How you've worked this up too with talking to Vontobel? So I sort of wondered how you arrived at 2%, which seems quite low considering that, over the last 2 years, the average, we're talking general inflation here is 2.74%, and over the last 20 years, it's been 2.52. I'm speaking from not wanting to see this fund eroded. I want to see this fund grow exponentially. Can you just tell us how you got to the 2%, or is that just an indicator number and one that would be updated if we go into a high-inflation environment?
We didn't arrive at those numbers. We were given those numbers by the council. So if you asked me, you're exactly right. We wouldn't be saying 2% because it's in the high inflation environment that we're in at the moment. You're going back, other than the market return. If you think about that's your inflation compensation, you're going backwards on that basis. So you've got to have your market returns kicking in. But that is not us. That's what we inherited.
If I could just add to that, the reason for the 2% was that's the midpoint of the Reserve Bank's target range of 1 to 3%. So that's the long-term assumption about the average rate of inflation.
Okay. I'm hearing from Christopher maybe a slightly different point of view.
Well, I think in 3 years' time, if we would come back at the table, we might have, let's see what happens, but we might have a different discussion depending on where inflation rates have finally arrived at. We've got a new Reserve Bank governor, so
yeah.
and she's very focused on inflation targeting, she's told us, so here's hoping she does her job.
I'm just going to flag that one. That's for others to consider at at a future council, but councillors, I think, as I said last time when we discussed this, this fund I see as being way north of where it is at the moment in the future, in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And I'll leave that inflation rate for others to consider when it comes up next.
Councillor Filipina, please.
Kia ora he mana. Thank you, Chair. Atamari koutou. Possibly two questions. First one, in the early conversations that we had around the Auckland Future Fund, there was talk about other assets within council going in to the Auckland Future Fund. Is that conversation still happening around other assets? Supplementary to that is, what would those assets possibly be, please?
We've been focused at the moment on the job that's at hand, and that is investing the funds that we have at this point in time and putting in place an investment manager, and that's what we've been focused on. In terms of other money, you obviously gave us the other $45 million that you received as a result of the maritime holdings sale from the ports of Auckland. So that's the extent that I can comment on at the moment.
Supplementary then, do you think when this SIPO is renewed, for want of a better term, every June, that at some stage those assets that you may be talking about could be placed in that? Before that, I need to ask, has there been any conversations with you and your board around any of the assets that possibly could be put into this? I mean, if it's confidential, fine, at least let me know if it is. And then I go back to the third question that I asked around, should it be put in here every June around any assets that we have within council to go into the Auckland Future Fund?
There's been no discussion at our boardroom table around other assets. As I said, the job at hand has been to invest post the sale of the Auckland Airport shares. Any other assets is clearly a discussion and decision for the Auckland Council, not the Auckland Future Fund Board. So in terms of your question around a SIPO, of course it could be amended to achieve a particular outcome, whatever the council decides. But at the end of the day, that it would clearly be a council decision around city assets.
Kia ora. And then question again to you, Phil. Can you confirm that if there are any assets that may well go into the Auckland Future Fund, that there will be a discussion with the governing body around any of those assets that could potentially go into the Auckland Future Fund?
Yes, I endorse what Chris has said. That's a decision for the governing body, and John might help me here in terms of the time frame, but there is an outstanding resolution for us to meet by way of giving you advice about what if any options exist in that. So it's coming back to you.
If I just could add to that, so that'll be brought back to you to inform the next annual plan.
Look, thank you. I just want to make sure there is a process in place and that process is adhered to. That's all. Killed up. Thank you.
Good question, huh? Okay, that's the end of those. No further questions, so in that case, well, I'll put the motion, which was...
Before you put the motion,
I'm sorry.
again, can we convey our thanks and on behalf of the local boards who have benefited from the Fix and Finish Fund, I know that they would have us pass on the gratitude to you for the opportunity be able to complete a lot of projects across Auckland. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. Thank you for attending. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. Thank you for your attention.